you're an artist that struggles with drawing clothes for your character, then let me give you 30 tips that will help you improve drawing clothes and it will make it much easier. Tip number 1. This tip will help you get better proportions and make the shapes cleaner. It will also create a good foundation that you can then add details on top. So tip number 1, simplify clothes to basic shapes. So instead of drawing every single bump and outline of your clothes, try to break it down into basic shapes like cylinders, rectangles, ovals, triangles, and just basic and not complicated shapes. Tip number 2. This tip is super essential to understanding the folds, and it will also help you draw folds from imagination. So tip number 2, understand the tension points. So clothes on the character aren't flat. They have in areas where the fabric is being pulled or stretched. So these areas are tension points, and every line converges to these tension points. And also there can be multiple tension points. Tip number 3. Drawing folds can be really confusing, and they might even seem random, but they're not. So the next step will help you break them down into something more manageable. So tip number 3. Simplify folds into basic shapes. So basically we can simplify folds into shapes like triangles or cylinders, and then just smooth the edges. And also my brushes are for free in description below, and with them you will get 30 tips that will help you improve your art in 30 days. Tip number 4. This tip is pretty obvious, but it needs to be said. So tip number 4, think of gravity. Obviously gravity works on clothes and it pulls them down. So if you pick up a piece of clothes, it won't be still flat, it will just drop and have one tension point, and then it will pull down. So remember about gravity. Tip number 5. This tip will help you draw folds with 2 tension points that hang. So tip number 5, use U-shape for the diaper folds. So whenever we want to draw folds like these, we need to observe the U-shapes that is between those 2 tension points. Now if the 2 tension points will be closer, the U will get deeper, and if they're more further apart, the U will get more straight. So remember about this U-shape when drawing diaper folds. Tip number 6. I've struggled a lot with these folds, and one thing that actually helped me was super simple. Tip number 6, use zigzag and triangles while drawing zigzag folds. So whenever I'm drawing a zigzag folds, I'll start with placing a simple zigzag, and then I'll add 2 triangles on the sides. So basically one triangle faces up, which catches light and it's much lighter, and one is pointing down and it doesn't catch any light, so it's much darker, and also blend some edges. Tip number 7. This tip will help you with drawing other type of folds like half-log folds. So tip number 7, show the fabric overhang. So whenever drawing a simple half-log fold, just remember to add this overhang at the top of the fold. But also because of this fold, it creates this triangle here, which makes it a little bit more realistic. Tip number 8. This tip will be greater for drawing tighter clothes. So tip number 8, use spiral folds. So for example, when we have tighter clothes and we move our arm closer to the body, the area around our armpit will get squished and it will create folds that go around our arm. Tip number 9. Next tip is pretty simple and will help you with drawing cylinder folds. So tip number 9, use cylinders as a shape for cylinder folds. Put a tension point on one side and then put a couple on the other side. Then connect them using a cylinder shape, and after that you can smooth the edges. Tip number 10. This tip is pretty important to make your clothes and folds look much better and more appealing. And here we can use a simple rule that I learned while studying faces. So tip number 9, use small, medium, big rule. So instead of making every single part of the clothes and folds the same size, we can actually make them have variety. So some parts will be bigger, some smaller, and some medium size. Tip number 11. So for me, whenever I was drawing clothes in the beginning, it was pretty difficult for me to get a decent shape for the clothes. But after multiple tries, whenever I flipped the canvas, the clothes were looking really wonky. So tip number 11, draw a mannequin first and then add clothes later. So pretty much we want to just start with a basic mannequin and then add clothes later. But it doesn't have to be super detailed, it can be just a simple shapes. It will make it much easier to draw clothes, but also your shape will be much better and more 3D. Tip number 12. And this tip is more for your overall workflow for drawing clothes and will also help you feel less overwhelmed. So tip number 12, work from big to small. So basically whenever we're drawing clothes, we want to start with a basic, simple, big shapes and then work our way into more details. Tip number 13. I've always heard about this tip, but I never really followed through with it. And what I did instead, I was just going straight into drawing, which made my clothes look really wonky and out of proportions. So tip number 13, observe before drawing. So here just take a couple of seconds before drawing and observe your reference. So look for proportions, how different parts relate to each other. Also think of the shapes that you can draw. And after some time of observing, then you can go into drawing, that it will be much better. Tip number 14. So here I made this mistake when I started drawing, but to be honest, I kept doing it even recently, which made my drawings look unappealing. So tip number 14, less is more. So whenever I was drawing clothes, I would put a ton of folds everywhere because I didn't really understand how to draw them. And to fix that, we can just think about the most important folds in your drawing and then draw them. Tip number 15, and this tip will make your clothes less stiff and more dynamic. So tip number 15, use CSI. So we want to use CSI curves to show the flow of the clothes. So we can use straight lines or C curves to show the folds of the clothes, but also we can use them for building our clothes shape. And also we can make those lines flow into each other, which will add much more dynamism. Tip number 16, and this one is also pretty obvious, but some clothes have more folds, some less, some smaller, some bigger. So tip number 16, learn different materials. And it's pretty simple, we just want to study different materials to be able to draw clothes that have more stiff folds or less stiff, with some more reflective and some less, and some have more texture. Tip number 17, this one is really huge for rendering and will obviously make your clothes look much better. So tip number 17, use hard and soft edges. So we want to pay attention to our edges in our drawing because we can really easily lose our old details. But also if we use only hard edges, it will be harder to show the curvature of the object. So keep some hard and soft edges. Tip number 18. This one will actually help you with drawing hard and soft edges. And it's also a simple tool in your drawing program. So tip number 18, use airbrush and lasso tool. So simply select an area with your lasso tool and then pick an airbrush and paint inside. And you'll see that it creates hard edges and also softer ones, which is great for showing form. Tip number 19. Whenever I was drawing clothes for my characters, it would look really flat, and I didn't really know why. And after many drawings, I just got sick of it. While drawing a color for my character, I realized something simple. That these contours made a really nice shape that shows overlap and adds a little bit of depth. So tip number 19, use T-lines. This shape that was created there looked like a T, and it's basically amazing for showing overlap and form and depth. Tip number 20. And this one I was always scared to do. And I heard that drawing like this is pretty useful, and I saw that League of Legends artists do that all the time. Therefore I tried that and I saw that my drawings actually got much better, but also it was much easier to draw. So tip number 20, use grayscale. So basically painting in grayscale will help you see your values all the time, and you can also see if they work or if they don't. And basically if the drawing has good values, you can put whatever colors you want and it will still look good. But if you have bad values and you use whatever colors you want, it will look pretty bad. Tip number 21. So after I finished my grayscale, I was kinda cooked because I didn't really know how to color it now. But after some time I've realized 3 easy ways that you can do that. So tip number 21, use curves, layers and gradient maps. So in gradient maps you basically assign a color to a specific value and that's it. And curves are a little bit more difficult because here you play with curves and you also assign a color to each value, but also you can assign more brightness or darkness. And layers are pretty simple because you just pick a color and you draw on top. And for that you can use a simple color layer or overlay or whatever you find useful. Tip number 22. So this one is no brainer, but I used to be guilty of not doing this. And many times I just went straight into drawing. But in the end my clothes were looking pretty weird and wonky. And the reason was super simple. I didn't use references. So tip number 22, use references. I obviously don't know how everything looks. So whenever I was drawing from memory, I didn't really know how to draw it. But also I've never practiced it, so I didn't really know how it all works. And then it's just guessing. Tip number 23. So while I was watching some speed paints of League of Legends splash arts, I realized something randomly. I saw that inside and outside of the sketches look really different. Some lines were harder, some softer, more faded, which looked amazing. So tip number 23, use line weight. So drawing everything with the same opacity for brush and same size will make your drawing look boring. So basically we want to use line weight to show variety in our line art. And basically we can make the same, so the edges of our character be a little bit thicker and darker, and the inside can be a little bit more faded and softer. Tip number 24. So sometimes after I finish drawing my clothes, I just stared at them and wondered why are they looking weird? And they looked pretty boring. I knew that I missed something, but to fix that I added something really simple. So tip number 24, add color variety. So not everything is only one color. A subtle gradient can add a huge improvement to your clothes. You can do that by adding more saturated areas to your clothes. You can make less important stuff darker, but you can also add bounce light and some subsurface scattering. Tip number 25. This one also helped me with not getting much overwhelmed while drawing. And it's a simple process for rendering. So tip number 25, start with flat color, then go to shadows and then to light. So first I lay flat color, then I'll add shadows, and then lastly I'll add light. So therefore I know what to do and what to focus next. And here we basically want to pick 3 values, one for base color, one for shadows, and one for light. And after you finish using these 3, then you can go and add some more. Tip number 26. So this painting technique I learned when I was rendering hair. So tip number 26, paint and erase. So it's pretty simple. First you paint something and then you erase with eraser. So basically we want to chisel our shapes in our drawing, but but also it creates a nice transitions. And it's also good for rendering metal. Tip number 27. So this tip is more for light and adding some depth to your drawings, to your clothes. Remember when I first learned about it, I would spam it constantly. So tip number 27, use ambient occlusion and bounce light. So first I add a simple ambient occlusion, which is basically areas where the light doesn't really get to. So like some folds or crevices in your clothes. And then I'll add bounce light, which is pretty much a light that bounces throughout your scene. And also bounce light is usually less saturated and less stronger than the main light. Tip number 28. This tip will give your clothes pretty nice look. I use it when there's things that are really bright or they're being just hit by the light source. So tip number 28, use layer modes. I use color dodge and add glow layers. And I just paint it on the edges, which creates this cool glowy effect. And it blends your clothes better to the background. Tip number 29. So I remember when I was drawing this texture for the shirt by hand, and it was a lot of work. And when I found a much easier method, I instantly tried to use it. So tip number 29, photobrush textures to your clothes. So just take an image with a cool texture, lay it on top of your clothes, and then change it to overlay or a different layer mode. And then you can just erase some edges to make it much better. And also you can check out my Patreon for monthly tutorials. Tip number 30. So I used to wonder how people draw these amazing details in their drawing, but after some time I've realized the magic behind it. And it was pretty simple. So tip number 30, use texture brushes. So you can pick some cool texture brushes like halftones, stripes, some rust, maybe a cloth, and it will give more life to your clothes, and it's pretty simple to use. But learning to draw clothes might seem a little bit difficult and overwhelming. Therefore, if you struggle with drawing it, you can check out this video here, which will help you to draw better clothes. Bye.